Plagas are a genus of parasitic arthropods. They are endemic to a remote mountainous region of Spain, from whence they get their name, from the Spanish words Las Plagas, meaning the plagues. They infect and then control their host's behaviour, creating Ganados, and are social creatures with a hierarchy, with Dominant Plagas issuing orders to the Subordinate Plagas. They can take many different forms depending on the hosts they infect, and were used by the Los Illuminados cult led by Osmund Saddler. The parasite. Plagas are believed to asexually reproduce, with their eggs being expelled from the host and consumed by other animals as part of their life cycle, or can be injected directly into the bloodstream by syringe. The plagas typically reach maturity within a few days of hatching, and following the larval stage will grow through 3 stages dubbed A, B and C. A plaga will attach itself to a human's central nervous system between the lungs and the heart. The infection can be very painful to the host and causes internal hemorrhaging. Symptoms include coughing up blood, swelling of the blood vessels around the eyes, fainting, convulsions and hallucinations. The parasite infection also causes mutations leading to increased strength and durability. For example, an infected organism can remain standing after sustaining multiple gunshot wounds, and some can wield heavy tools and weapons without difficulty. If the host is severely injured, adult plagas may tear through the neck and use their own natural weaponry in self-defense. Plagas are able to influence their host's actions and behaviour, and the human hosts named Ganados, despite being under the control of the plaga, their brain function is not entirely destroyed or replaced by the parasite, and they will retain most of their intelligence. Rather, the host's and parasite's consciousnesses will work in tandem, with the host able to continue with their daily routines and even form a social cluster with other hosts. This can allow them to infiltrate other human circles without being detected. Then, when the parasite issues a command, it will influence the host's mind into doing so, essentially taking over. If the host is rendered unable to control their own motor functions, then the parasite will assume direct command of the host's nervous system, bypassing the brain. As the plagas are social creatures, their hosts also form a pack mentality with others. Though hosts may still communicate to one another via speech, the plagas themselves communicate via ultra-high frequency sound waves, which can be interpreted as commands. It has been observed that not all plagas will act well to each other. Even after gaining control of the mountains, the Los Illuminados saw fit to execute locals, and Ganado mutants such as the Gigantes also acted violently towards other hosts. Despite being host to a plaga parasite himself, Leon was also attacked during his mission regardless. Plagas are extremely sensitive to ultraviolet radiation and thus avoid daylight. A radiation therapy procedure was developed by Luis Serra's team, which would douse the patient in enough UV radiation to kill a plaga without invasive surgery. This procedure was used to treat Leon Kennedy and Ashley Graham. In both cases, the plaga killed was a hatchling, and it is believed the chances of survival are significantly lower for hosts of adult plagas. Flashbang grenades were found to be highly effective as a means of killing plagas that had emerged from their hosts at night. The growth of hatchlings can be halted through certain forms of medication, and this medicine can also kill unhatched plaga eggs. Serra handed this medicine to Leon and Ashley when they were too far away from the island laboratory to receive the UV treatment. It is possible that plagas can be killed through the destruction of the host's nervous system, but in a way that will keep the host alive but in a paraplegic state. This was performed on Alexander Kozachenko to prevent a plaga taking over his body. There are 2 main types of plaga, the dominant and subordinate plagas. A dominant or control plaga are named as such because they are not susceptible to the ultrasound-based orders that regular subordinates follow. Unlike regular types, dominant parasites do not affect the host's consciousness, allowing for high levels of cognitive thought and speech. However, this also meant that hosts of a dominant species plaga were impossible for the likes of Osmund Saddler to control, forcing those seeking to weaponize the parasites to choose their hosts with extreme caution. The subordinate plagas are much more numerous and follow the commands given to them from the control plagas via high-frequency signals which they receive from the dominant plagas and decipher through a specialised organ. Ganados. A ganado is the term given to a human victim host of the subordinate plaga species used by Los Illuminados. The word is derived from the Spanish word ganado, which can be roughly translated to livestock or cattle. The Ganados consisted of the residents of an isolated off-grid farming village in a remote region of Spain. They resemble a normal human superficially and can still use tools and weapons like knives, pitchforks, molotovs and even chainsaws. Where they begin to differ though is that they will act more aggressively and more animalistic. They will frequently use bad language, display poor personal hygiene and are also cannibalistic. The original Ganados were slaughtered during a crusade by the Salazar family and the surviving plagas sealed in an underground cave. The plagas escaped the caves in the early 21st century and turned a number of miners from the nearby village into Ganados. Through genetic engineering of the parasite, Los Illuminados was able to produce a new species, the Dominant Plagas, which would be under the control of its host and mutate them at will. Seeking to recruit the local population into a private army, Los Illuminados brainwashed the villagers to follow a neo-pagan religion, seeing its leader Osmund Saddler as a prophet. These villagers were injected with plaga eggs which would take over their bodies, disguised as a baptismal ritual. Now unwaveringly loyal to their prophet, the Ganados received orders to kill trespassers on sight. The village Ganados protected their area armed with farming tools and explosives. Those which served in Salazar's castle served as monks and were provided medieval weaponry. Those who served in Saddler's army on his island were paramilitary militiamen armed with modern military-grade weapons. How many people were killed for the crime of trespass is uncertain, as a number of locals were also executed for various unknown offences. It is certain that 2 police officers from Madrid were killed by villagers. Certain variants of Ganado are particularly robust and deadly, even more so than the default type. The chainsaw Ganado, or chainsaw villager, is one such variant. They are seen to wear a burlap sack over the head. There are also 2 chainsaw sisters, a pair of female chainsaw Ganados. They wield a huge chainsaw as a weapon and take a huge amount of damage to kill. Another is the Brute, a Ganado type with a cow's head as a mask and which uses large hammers and crossbows. In Africa, a weaponised BOW based on Las Plagas made by Tricell was unleashed on the local population. These Ganado counterparts are known as Magini. Other creatures. Although Ganados are the most commonly seen plaga host, the parasite does not exclusively infect humans, but it can control seemingly any type of host animal. Other human-based forms have been produced by experimentation with the plagas. Some of these creatures include colmeos, plaga-infected wolves which first appear around the church. The parasite can be seen emerging from the back of the animal. Del Lago, one of the earlier plaga experiments by Los Illuminados, a salamander that became host to the parasite. The organism reacted to its small host by mutating it, increasing its size considerably. The salamander was sealed in the village lake because the cult was unable to control its behaviour. El Gigante, human-based bioorganic weapons produced by Los Illuminados. They are enormous in size and have increased strength and durability. However, their intelligence and thus their controllability was greatly reduced, resulting in their minimal production. Ganados, human hosts that have undergone physical enhancements and become uncontrollably aggressive. In response, their captors were forced to sew their eyelids shut and confine them to cells. This loss of sight heightened their other senses, particularly their hearing, making them formidable even when deprived of their vision. Novistador, a horrific experiment of the plaga organism on the human body, fusing human genes with those of various insects. Verdugo, BOWs created by Los Illuminados to serve as personal bodyguards for Ramon Salazar. Regenerador, experimental bioweapons created by Los Illuminados. Regeneradors are known for their regenerative abilities, allowing them to regrow large portions of their body if destroyed. They have a variant called the Iron Maiden with spikes across its body. U3, dubbed It by Osmund Saddler, an experimental bioweapon developed on the island. It was a horrifying chimera of human, insect and reptile DNA fused into a single being, itself hosting a Plaga parasite. Los Illuminados. Meaning the Enlightened Ones, Los Illuminados are a neo-pagan religion which emerged in Spain in the 90s. Known for its worship of Plagas, Los Illuminados sees itself as the continuation of an ancient primal religion native to the region. Sometime before 2004, Los Illuminados used one of its agents to kidnap Ashley Graham, daughter of the then US president, as part of a plot to take over the entire world by infecting Ashley and returning her to her father with the aim of controlling those with influence over the president's decisions: Congress, the Department of Justice, military agencies, and large private companies. The leader of the Illuminados was Osmund Saddler, often referred to as Lord Saddler. He was a bioweapons research chief who weaponized the mind-controlling Plaga parasites to suit his plans for world domination. He converted the village community to his cult and injected them with Plaga eggs, which he disguised as a religious ceremony. Saddler injected himself with a genetically engineered Dominant Plaga and was able to control the village inhabitants. He had his own private army located on an island near the village. Ramon Salazar was a Spanish nobleman and descendant of the 15th century noble warrior who led the crusade against the Illuminados and locked the parasites in the cave system under his castle. As the 21st century came about, Salazar converted to Los Illuminados and served as one of Saddler's lieutenants. He was given a Dominant Plaga by Saddler and used 2 Verdugo bioweapons as his personal bodyguards. It became Salazar's duty to protect the Queen Plaga, a large creature which reproduced new Plagas. Bitors Mendez was a Catholic priest who ran the church and was chief of the local village. He was approached by Osmund Saddler, who sought to exploit his influential position among the locals to convert them. Mendez eventually shifted to Saddler's cause, becoming a priest for Los Illuminados. He asked the villagers to visit the chapel, where Saddler convinced them that by being baptized in the way of Los Illuminados, their souls would be saved. Following the successful conversion of the villagers, Mendez was given control over them as Saddler's lieutenant, and himself infected with the dominant species Plaga, allowing him full control over his body, as well as the ability to mutate if needed. Jack Krauser was the Illuminados' American mole who kidnapped Ashley Graham. He was an ex-SOCOM operative who served alongside Leon Kennedy, but later joined Albert Wesker's organisation and worked for him. He was sent to infiltrate Los Illuminados and obtain a parasite sample for Wesker. Enamoured with the power a Dominant Plaga granted, he took the sample he received from Saddler and injected it into his own body. He then attempted to join Saddler's inner circle and kidnapped the president's daughter for him. Let me know what you think of the Plagas and the Resident Evil 4 remake down in the comments section. I'm playing through it right now and I have been really enjoying it so far. I think they've done as good a job on it as they did with the RE2 remake, which I liked a lot as well. Make sure to leave a like on this video for the algorithm, and then why not check out one of my other videos that might interest you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.